Good evening, everyone. The council meeting for July 19, 2022 is called to order. Chief Peace, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
I would love to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Donna, will you do a roll call, please?
Sure.
Councilmember Bode,
Here.
Councilmember Sherman. Here. Councilmember Gutierrez,
Here.
Marinesco,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schmidt,
Here.
Councilmember McDowell,
Present.
and Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Does the council have any late changes to the agenda for city manager? No? All right. Any board reports from the council members tonight?
We had a Shetland Metropolitan Parks District Board meeting last week, and we talked about just the status of our parks and how everything's rising in cost, and we might have to have some capital projects that need to be funded in the future, and we're wondering how we're going to fund them. So that was the gist of that meeting.
Thank you. Chamber had a great street fair on Friday. Followed by our first annual Movies in the Park. Of course, there's always small glitches when we start, but I want to thank Mark and Jordan for their hard work and together. There's been a lot of great feedback on that. People are very excited for the rest of the movies. All right. So no more board reports. Consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to read the consent agenda? All right, can we have a motion, please?
I move to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Public comment time. Donna, do we have anyone interested in public comment?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
In-person public comment. First is Dean Jewett.
Good evening, I'm Jewett, lifetime Mason County resident, city of Shelton. I want to talk about enforcement or lack of. We had a report here several months ago from a little gal from the health department. And y'all remember what she talked about a 3 to 4 block radius around Post Office Park. And the negative impact that 10 to 15% of the street people cause the business corridor and the downtown area and how it looks. We also had our first homeless meeting, and we were able to listen to the city attorney, and she talked about the way the Boise versus Martin Ninth Circuit. The city of Shelton and all of you have the ability to set up a zone that we do not have to have what we have going on. And we can enforce a no-way law. We can enforce our street camping. We can have those enforcements of no stolen property. And that is not breaking with the Ninth Circuit ruling. We set that up in a 4 block radius around downtown. We don't have to solve where they go. We have to solve where they cannot be. And that is if they're making a negative impact. And that doesn't mean a family going and sitting on the park and having a nap or reading a book. And you know, all no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about River Park. I'm talking about sleeping under the caboose. I'm talking about the encampment that's been at River Park for close to 30 days. We all know what happens at 31 days, do we not? You become a tenant. If you become a tenant, how many more laws do we have to do to try to have somebody move? So, in my mind, we don't even go down that road. If somebody sets up camping, we already have an ordinance on the books. We have to enforce those. Everybody sees people pushing shopping carts around. That's possession of stolen property. So why do we turn a blind eye to that? I don't understand. And Joe, this is kind of for you. You're a financial guy. Okay. How much does it cost to run a police officer on a call. How many of those calls should be able to run a report? How many of those calls are ran on in a 30-day period? How much does that cost us? Could that money be used in a more positive manner about some life skills training? You know what? Let's get some of these people, street people, some skills. And if they don't want to accept those skills, then we don't need them here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Donna, would anyone else interested in public comment?
Yes, we have another in person and then we have one on Zoom. So our next in person is Jackie Jewett.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Jewett. I live in Shelton. So a couple of things, and I've touched base on this in the past a little bit, but I kind of wanted to wrap around because it's been several weeks. But talking about the ordinance, before I talk about a certain number of ordinances, I want to speak briefly to you about the ordinance that the city is getting ready to pass and allowing the homeless camps on property. So I know that there's talk of, okay, so the owners are going to be responsible for doing all the cleanup and all this and that. So, but somebody needs to oversee that. So when we have our public camping prohibited ordinances here in Shelton, and it specifically says that camping means remaining overnight in a tent, hut, lean-to, or other temporary shelter or structure. And it says it is absolutely prohibited on public property. So we're not enforcing that. We are not enforcing this. So we're not enforcing a lot of the ordinances here. So I don't know why they're even on the books if we are not going to pay attention to them. So it brings me to feel that if we can't do what we're supposed to do here with the ordinances we have, why in the heck are we passing a new one to allow homeless camps? Why? We can't get this under control. So in my classroom with my kids, if I tell them that I'm going to do something, if I have a list of classroom rules, right? And I let the kids get away with not complying to the classroom rules. Over time, it's this, wah, wah, wah. Mrs. Jewett is not going to do anything about it, so who cares? Adults are the same way. So the city, over and over and over and over and over and over again, are not doing what you're supposed to do. So why? Why? How can I trust you as a community member? How can anybody trust you for that matter? So I've been talking to different business owners, and I talked to one today, and he says, and that is actually, well, not an owner, a manager of one of the banks here in Shelton. And he says, I was just out there last week cleaning, off of my sidewalk again. Should a manager of a bank be out there cleaning that crap off of the sidewalks at the bank? No.
Thank you, Jackie.
And Mr. Mayor, we have Colleen Carmichael via Zoom.
Hi, and good evening. I'm Colleen Carmichael, and I'm the Executive Director of Quixote Communities, a permanent supportive housing provider in Shelton. Tonight, I just want to continue to educate the public about some of the facts as it relates to homelessness. The Trauma Foundation reports that more than 50% of Americans suffer from a chronic health disorder, and rates of anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress and addiction are skyrocketing. The roots of these issues and more can be traced to trauma, adverse childhood experiences, which are also known as ACEs, and chronic stress. Youth suicides and hospital admissions for mental health crises cases have risen so drastically that towards the end of 2021, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and Children's Hospital Associations declared a national state of emergency in children's mental health. How does this relate to homelessness? There is a clear relationship between childhood adversity and the likelihood of a lifetime of homelessness. People with multiple ACEs have high rates of medical and behavioral issues as adults. Homeless have high rates of exposure to traumatic stress and its mental health consequences as children, and that becomes complicated by the use of substances to medicate their distress. 25% of all homeless population have a mental illness, and a higher rate among adult individual women and people experiencing chronic homelessness. 35% of single adults and 40% of mothers in shelters have misused substances. 67% of chronically homeless individuals have mental health disorders, and 60% have substance use disorders because many have been exposed to multiple traumatic stresses, particularly violent victimization that has led to permanent and supportive need for housing. More than 90% of homeless mothers have been exposed to at least one severe traumatic stress, and almost 97% of homeless women have been exposed to severe, persistent physical and sexual abuse. For homeless youth, a high risk of physical and sexual exploitation, engagement in illicit activities, and violent victimization and death has contributed to their homelessness. And 20 to 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ, 3 times higher than the general population. And transgender youth are also overrepresented. I say this because I want to continue the education and create awareness and action to support and assist homeless service providers. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
There's no one else, Mr. Mayor.
Right. We are recessing from our regular meeting to open a public hearing. City Manager Jeff Knighton has information for regulating camping on private property.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, excuse me, Deputy Mayor and members of council. So tonight we wanted to bring ordinance 1987-0422, which is regulating camping on private property ordinance to the council. We first brought this to council at a study session on March 22nd of this year, and we've made one change based on the comments that we received there. We're happy to take any additional feedback this evening. The code section that we're looking at here, actually 2 of them, there is 20.47 of the Shelton Municipal Code, and the second is 8.70. And I want to make it clear, I think there's has been, I've heard in the community a little bit of misconception. This isn't a new code. This code was initially adopted in 2015, and we're simply amending the code to better meet the circumstances that we see that exists today. As I mentioned, you discussed this idea, this ordinance at a study session on March 22nd. And one of the things that we are looking at is the encampments that lack sufficient sanitation facilities in the city. That's part of the nuisance code. That's part of that 8.70 that I mentioned earlier. So I just wanted to run through a few of the items in the actual ordinance itself and point out the area that we changed the language from what you initially took a look at. So what this is to ensure accountability and helping property owners who have these issues that are facing these issues and to maintain their property rights. Let's see. So the prohibited acts include homeless encampments that are not authorized by this chapter. Currently, we have no authorized homeless encampments in the city. So everyone that we have is in violation of this chapter. And if the public sanitation piece was added to chapter 8.70, then it becomes a nuisance, and it gives our code enforcement officers additional tools to address the issue. So the host permits, and again, the host permits that are a part of this were adopted in 2015. This isn't new. It's at least 7 years old at this point, and we're simply making amendments to what already exists. So the criteria for a homeless facility not accommodating not more than 6 people. So 6 people max. And you can see that criteria on page 4 of the ordinance. There's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. One is visual screening from the neighboring properties. 2, the host shall provide and enforce within the encampment a written code of conduct. So people do have to follow those rules to remain in the camp. And the temporary homeless encampment shall comply with the actual applicable state statutes and regulations, including but not limited to drinking water connections and solid waste disposal for the encampments. The other thing, and these are part of the changes, and the changes are made throughout the ordinance, is the first criteria there: the facility is located on the property of a religious organization. We changed the language religious organization to community organization throughout the ordinance. So that's the change I wanted to highlight for you. There's a second provision for a homeless encampment for a facility accommodating not more than 30 individuals that can be permitted administratively for up to 7 months. So this isn't a permanent thing, but those same criteria that apply to the smaller encampment apply here, along with some additional requirements, including contact with the Shelton Police Department and a way to check backgrounds of people that are seeking to reside within the encampment. You were provided with a clean copy of this ordinance and also with a strike through and underlined version, so you can see where the changes through the ordinance take place. And when we get to enforcement, we're the back half here. 2047-080 homeless encampments without a valid permit under this chapter are prohibited. And any entity that allows such a non-permitted encampment, as well as the owner of the property and the residents, are subject to abatement. And basically what that means is just clean up. So we do have some provisions in here, and with code enforcement holistically, not just on this issue, but with every piece of code enforcement we do, the idea is to help educate folks and then to help them comply. The idea is not to give tickets. The idea is not to punish right off the bat. This is, we will help you do what we're asking you to do. These are the rules. Here's how we can help you comply with them. That includes putting up no trespass signs. That includes putting the ability for our police officers to enter a property, a form on our website that allows police officers to enter the property to address these issues. Those types of things. The other thing is the police department is willing to go out and talk about ways that you can help make your property less attractive to the establishment of homeless facilities. Things like ensuring sightlines throughout the property. So when people are driving by, walking by, biking by, they can see throughout the entire property and see what's going on. We follow these rules on our own property. If you'll remember, the Library Hill Trail was an issue for quite a while. Our public works crews and our parks crews went up and limbed up those trees, so when the police officers entered the library parking lot, they could look up that hill and see what was happening. It decreased the activity. It didn't eliminate it, but it did decrease it. But all those types of things are little elements of things that property owners can do, including public property owners, to limit that type of activity on your property. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have a recommendation here that you move this on to your August 2nd city council meeting on the action agenda. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or take direction on how to modify the ordinance.
Let's do public testimony. Don, anyone signed up?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We have a reading of ordinance number 1987-0422.
Ordinance number 1987-0422. An ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, amending chapters 20.47.010 and 8.70 of the Shelton Municipal Code related to camping on private property.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to forward ordinance number 1987-0422 to the action agenda on August 2nd, city council meeting for further consideration.
All right. Council members, questions or comments? Councilmember McDowell, you had a question.
Okay, I have several. Dean read that about the 31 days. Doesn't that flash for the 7 month?
So the 31 days applies to enclosed areas, not open areas, 30 days actually. But the 7 month establishment, because there is already a written time limit And a possible extension for another, I believe it's another 7 months. But then there is a firm end date. Those two things don't clash.
So I'm a little confused about if a property person is somebody's letting these encampments on their property. I'm confused about why we would need to have it open so that people can see in. I mean, if the property owner is allowing that on their property,
If a property owner is allowing it on their property, they would need to comply with the permit provisions, the criteria that's listed in here, whether that's for 6 individuals or 30. And at that point, with the screening and all the other things that are required as part of that permit process, then that's a permitted activity, and it would be very similar to your backyard where you could screen it and, so people wouldn't be able to see it. Those are two different things. What we're talking about is people that want to prevent the establishment of camps or other illegal activity. It could be anything, not necessarily camps. Making it easier for people to see into that property and the police, frankly, to see into that property when they drive by, to inhibit or limit those types of activities on property.
okay. All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Go for it. I'll go next.
Comment, I've been doing a lot of research on different methods of helping out the business community and decreasing the amount of homeless activity in neighborhoods. And it's going to take a lot of effort and coordination with the police department and the neighbors of having the will to have a place to have homeless folks exist. So I think this is one step towards this, and I've seen a lot of successful stories. Very recently, I checked out Serenity House up in Clallam County, which is very similar to Shelton and rural area in Port Angeles. And they doing an amazing job in coordinating all the different social services to have a homeless encampment that is safe, clean, and benefits the whole community. And I think this is a step towards that. I don't think it's the solution, but I think it's a step towards it. And I'm in favor of this going forward.
Just remember both.
So with these, can they only be homeless encampments? Or can I do this and charge people to live in my yard?
These would only be homeless encampments, and it's only permitted for 7 months.
Okay,
Max.
but is there a provision in here that we're not allowed to charge?
So not in this particular ordinance, but in other areas of the code.
Councilmember Peterson.
So we've talked a couple of times about the trespass letter consent on file with SPD. I don't see that specifically called out anywhere within this unless I missed it. So is that something you could speak to?
Yeah, we didn't call it out specifically here because if there are changes to changes to our website, like we're planning to do, making sure that we still provide those services without requiring it, because if we put it in the ordinance and it's required that we do that, and we miss something when we do a website migration, then we would be in violation of our own ordinance, and that's not something that we want to do. But if that's something council would like to see specifically added to the language, we can certainly add that before August 2nd.
As far as I'm concerned, I think we keep talking about this as being a one way to protect property rights as well as to support people that are going through this. So if we're saying that for those people who are intending to navigate this process, and this is the support we're going to offer them, then I think that we need to include that and detail that here. I don't know how deeply we need to describe that, but I think it's important that we provide that as a criteria. We've talked a lot about that piece, and I think for me, it's a really integral piece of moving this forward.
Sure, just to make sure I'm clear, are you just talking about the trespass letter piece, or okay.
The consent letter on file with SPD.
Yeah, we can do that. And I did also want to mention, by the way, we received a letter from Bob and Lauren Rogers after the study session. The last time that was forwarded to you at the time, we forwarded it again today just to make sure that everybody had that. So that's in front of you as well.
Right, any other questions? The only question that I have is with our graffiti ordinance and this ordinance. I'd like to see something that just says, you know, if somebody's doing the right thing and they get repeat offenders, that we help them just with a tipping fee or something.
Yeah.
We help them somehow.
Okay.
At the cost of a repeat offender, you know. There's a piece of property, they get thrown out, that person cleans it up, they come back. I think that we should help them just a little bit. As long as they're doing the right thing, they have no trespassing order in and all that.
We already have language in the graffiti ordinance that council was comfortable with, so we can just mirror that language in this ordinance.
That work? Thank you. All right, any other questions, comments? All right. We have a motion and a second to forward ordinance number 1987-0422 to the action agenda for August 2nd council meeting for further consideration. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. This public hearing is closed and we'll resume our regular meeting. Our next business item is resolution regarding special use permits at Mountain View Elementary. Senior Planner Jason Does has details.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I am here today to present to you the hearings examiner's recommendation regarding the placement of two 1,750 square foot portable classrooms at Mountain School. The reason we're here is chapter 20.70 of the Shelton Municipal Code identifies the airport overlay districts. Basically, easiest way to explain that is it's a bunch of pie-shaped different overlay zones that you lay over the northern part of town that kind of outline Sanderson Field, or generally Chinese Airport, on the west side of town. What the ordinance says is no new special function land uses can be placed within any of those zones. And special function land uses are things like nursing homes, K-12 schools, hospitals, daycare centers, those sorts of things. But existing special function land uses, like elementary, can expand through the special use permit process as long as they address compatibility issues identified in the ordinance. On May 23rd, we held a public hearing. It was noticed to the court, among other people, along all typical channels. And we did not receive any comments from the court. But the hearing was held, the hearings examiner recommends approval of placement of these to the council. And what got attached to the staff report is the staff report that was given to the hearings examiner, along with plans for the two portable classrooms. I have a draft resolution for you that would basically concur with the hearings examiner's findings and approve the use. And I've attached the hearings examiner's recommendation, which mirrored staff's recommendation to him to approve the request subject to 5 conditions. And what I'm asking for is that this be placed on your August 2nd meeting for action.
Thank you, Jason. Donna, do we have any public comment?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion?
I move it to place resolution number 1241-0622 to the August 2nd action agenda.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Comments or questions for Jason or anybody else?
Question for Jason. So the facilities manager, Mr. Herron, was in favor of this. And obviously the principal. And so if they wanted, then I think we should move forward.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to concur with the hearing examiner's recommendation for approval of a project and place the item on the council's August 2nd action agenda to authorize the mayor to sign resolution number 1241-0622, certifying council approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have a resolution for Koda Street Parking Lot Project Award. City engineer Ken Gill has information.
Good evening, council. It's good to see you. This project replaces the gravel asphalt that's right behind you into a beautiful paved, rural paver with landscaping, pickleball court and basketball court. So we've been working on this for a long, long time. So a big thank you to from the Common and the Lions Club making this happen. So the staff desperately tried to get this project within your budget while fighting inflation. The items that staff have done before my city forces are hauling off of the gravel, landscaping, irrigation, traffic control, and pothole. So in front of you, you have a bid tab with Donna Knoll and Brooke Hills' help. We advertised for this project and we received 2 bids. One's from Mild Resources. You recall Mild Resources, it is just at the edge of town, they'll be in town for River Avenue. And then also Rockland's a longtime contractor like in Avenue. So 2 local contractors, generally fairly local, one more local than the other, but good reputations to do good work. And the bid is outside of your budget. So to make this project happen, your stormwater utility, your working finance department, you have to dip into some of your reserves, but still stay inside your percentage to make this go forward. I don't have any other questions for you guys, but I'm kind of excited to present them. We're working on it since I've been here really long. And thank you guys for all your help getting into this far.
Thank you, Ken. Do we have public comment, Donna?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion?
I move to place resolution number 1240-0622 on the August 2nd, 2022 action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
Thank you. All right, comments and questions?
Yes. I want to say thank you very much for all your hard work and putting up with me. And pulling in the plans every once in a while to see how far you've come. Very exciting. The Lions Club is excited about this project. I just have one question. On number 29, it says basketball hoop per each. Is that, we already paid for those, right?
So those are the basketball hoops that the
Line.
will be providing.
The Lions Club,
The
yeah,
Lions will be funds will be used to
right, okay. So that just means they haven't been paid for, they will be paid for by the Lions Club. Okay,
That was my question. Any other questions or comments? All right. We have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1240-0622 on the August 2nd, 2022 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? What I missed? Oh, I didn't hear.
We're not on Zoom anymore. I don't think I have to raise my hand. I just visualize it, right?
I didn't hear you. All right, motion carries. No, I didn't hear you, sorry. I'm getting old.
You will next time.
All right. We have another item from Ken, a resolution to approve a 6-year TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. You got it?
So thank you again, council, for being here tonight. Last week, I re-listened to my last presentation to make sure that I answered all your questions tonight. And did a little bit of homework last week with our staff. But again, big thank you to Dawn for the public hearing notice. Questions I heard last time were Front Street. Let's get some of the traffic off First Street to eliminate some of the snarling down there. Check in with my friend Desi, who retired. He said, happy to do that. I need to bring it up to current washout standards. So what is that? Where do you cut over? What is that? It's a big project that affects the cost. We've been out there with our maintenance staff and kind of asked the question, what can we do right now? And kind of there was consensus among our maintenance staff that a lot more people would use it if it was a lot smoother. So be looking in your budget as you prepare this year for our maintenance staff to go out there and use our labor box to fix some of those potholes and make it a little bit smoother. But also stay tuned for more of that project, but that one will take a few years to get there, but it's certainly on the list. The other project was, let's look at on 4th Street between Alder and River Avenue.
and raise up some of those concrete panels. When you go through the intersection there at Cedar, you really got a hold of the steering wheel, or you're gonna end up in the Deputy Sheriff Extension Center. So, met out there with our maintenance staff. We'll probably be looking at raising up those storm inlets that are set down about 6 to 8 inches. We'll also be looking at doing a sign to complete the improvements done by Mason County, finishing off the ADA ramps, placing the stick of water main in there that needs to be replaced. So again, that'll probably come back to you as a future budget. Other item was look at the bus route at 7th and Wyandotte 2nd, and met out there again with our main staff. That is the Shelton South Loop with MTA. And you do see 2 layers of distinct pavement because there's one that's coming off. Again, we believe that that is a maintenance item that we can take here with our maintenance staff. So we'll put together a list of those and some others around town and share with city manager. The other question that was posed was some local road safety plan projects. King Street and K, there was a project that was proposed and supported by the Shelton School District to get students walking across the road in the right spot during parent pickup times at school let out. And that was one of the projects that I confirmed that's in our local road safety plan. So if we don't get it funded this year, there's another round in another 2 years. So that's kind of the game plan for that. Oakland Bay Junior High and the entrance there, the crossing there, where I think like the term, the students are playing frogging. So we'll just continue to look at that, continue to study that. We've got a scope and fee from a local vendor to bring that flashing beacon up to current standards. So right now the poles out there, it has a flashing beacon on one side, it should have to be both, which is like the one at 6th. So we'll get that maintenance side and we'll continue to work on that project and get it as safe as it can be. That's all I had to present tonight on the 6-shoe tip. If I missed your questions or missed some, set me straight and I'll do my best to answer. But thanks for listening tonight.
Thanks, Ken. Donna, any public comment tonight?
No, there isn't, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a reading of resolution number 1237-0522.
Yes. Resolution number 1237-0522, a resolution of the city of Shelton, Washington, adopting the comprehensive 6-year transportation improvement program for the city of Shelton for the years 2023 through 2028.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 1237.
1237.
1237-0522 and the 6-year TIP.
All right. Second, okay, we have a motion and a I'm sorry, questions or comments? No. All right, we have a motion. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you because we need a lot of help to have safe places to walk in the city, and this is very much part of it. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1237-0522 and the 6-year TIP. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you, thank you. Our next item is a resolution deeming TMG as a sole source. Public Works Director Jay Harris has details for us.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Jay Harris, Public Works Director. I have a sole source resolution for you tonight. I presented at the last meeting, changes to tonight's presentation. At the membrane treatment plant, we have a chlorine disinfection system. Is manufactured by Prominent Systems. We get all the parts through TMG, it's a vendor that has that product. I order all my things through them. They're the only person in the state that does that. So anyways, rather than going through competitive bidding, I can't because there are no competitive bids, proprietary system. So I need to buy pH analyzers and parts and maintain the thing. We bring in TMG also to inspect the system every year, just to make sure it's still meeting factory specifications. Keeping our disinfection systems up and running, all the time at high standards, because we need to meet residual levels for chlorine, really important. So that's all I have, and adopt the resolution tonight. We'll have TMG Services as our sole source vendor for the Prominent system. That's it.
All right, Donna, any public comment?
No, there isn't, Mr. Mayor.
May we have a reading of resolution number 1239-0522?
Resolution number 1239-0522. A resolution of the city of Shelton, Washington, declaring the purchase of Prominent Fluid Controls Incorporated equipment, parts, components, and service to be clearly and legitimately limited to a sole source through TMG services and waiving competitive bidding requirements for such purchases and service needs.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt resolution number 1239-0522 as presented.
All right. Council have any comments or questions?
Is there a second? Second.
Oh, sorry. No, I thought I heard one. I didn't. That's a problem. Now, do we have any comments or questions? All right. I just have a question, kind of comment maybe for you and Ken. Are we being proactive in ordering parts for vital equipment? I was at a transit meeting today where they ordered buses and the price, they're not going to honor the contract because there's no chassis. So the buses and the price has gone up 50%, and that doesn't even guarantee that they're going to get those buses. And so I'm hearing that from several places that we're not getting things in a timely manner. So like,
Yes, so we have ordered some trucks and dump trucks and just regular pickups and that sort of thing. Put in our order at like last year after the budget was reviewed by you folks. We put in our order like during budgeting time, and we're receiving those items now. So anyways, even though they weren't in the budget, because you hadn't approved it yet, we still put in, basically got in line, right? Hopefully the logjam of the vehicle thing will be ending down the road here. It's all revolving around chips today, computer chips. There's a lot of automobiles sitting on lots just waiting for final assembly. We're having the same problem with the census meters. Got great news on that one, that we signed a purchase order a year ago for the AMI system. We're getting 1,000 transmitters in the next 10 days and should be followed up with 1,000 meters in the next 3 weeks. No promise on the meters, but the transmitters have been shipped. So far, they're honoring the price from a year ago, but we could be riding a little bit of a wave there too. So more to come on that. But yeah, it's difficult right now to, order and get anything. I was up at the Ford dealership today. Their lots so pretty vacant in here, you guys, that the cars are at these factories still sitting there. They haven't been shipped. So you'll probably be able to get a 2020 model year that's in 2023. I don't know how else this is all going to work. They're made. They're just waiting for final assembly on a few things. So last thing is Western Gateway. We're waiting for the contractor to get some water service parts. They're having a problem with the corporation stops. Those affixed to the 8-inch diameter main line. They allow us to connect the service to the main line. They're not available, and having a very difficult time trying to buy these brass fittings of all things. Pipes here, my understanding is valves, all the other fittings are just waiting for these corporation stops. So we have a few down the maintenance yard. And we're talking about potentially loaning them the project. But what we're worried about is then we don't have somebody who do a repair, that we have a break and need these fittings, and all of a sudden we don't have them, but we need it for a project. So it's a really interesting climate right now for parts, and hopeful that this supply chain stuff in the near future is going to get resolved. And my understanding is the pavers are in the yard for the city engineer. That's what they say. They've been made.
nice,
They're sitting there. That's what they say.
nice.
Okay.
I used the buses for an example. I was kind of like more talking like water parts, sewer parts, UV light bulbs, stuff that that we could need and not get for a year. I mean, we're being proactive in ordering stuff like that.
So you said the pavers are in the yard?
That's the answer, Mike.
A month ago, when we made a call, they had them in stock in Olympia.
Yeah, we are ordering things as best we can within the constraints of our budgetary authority. So sometimes that's the hiccup. With public budgeting in particular, we have a certain authority. We have to fit projects within that authority. If we can add some more parts to get some backstock, we can, but then those things can cause problems down the line. It's very similar to the fittings that Jay was talking about. If we loan these to the project and we have a problem somewhere, it's difficult to get those in a timely fashion.
But you also don't want to get into hoarding. We saw that with toilet paper and other supplies, right?
Yeah, I just meant like running out of a UV light would be a problem. We
Yes.
couldn't get any more.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anybody else have any comments or
I have
questions?
a comment, one comment. When those papers come in, I want to come over and touch them. Please let me know.
At $249,700.
I'm counting on you guys to let me know.
We'll do
Okay, thanks.
All right,
it. Well,
thank you. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1239-0522 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Our last action item is an update to the fee schedule. Interim Finance Director Terry Snitzer has information for us.
Deputy Mayor, council members. Tonight we bring you the 2022 master fee schedule update number 2. For your consideration. There's nothing that has substantially changed except for 2 items, and that was resolution number on the fee schedule and on page 21, the typo that happened. And we corrected that. We have a clean version as well as a red line version in the packets. And we also have Mark Ziegler, Community Development Director, to talk about the technology. Thank you. The technology.
Thanks, Terry. Thank you, Mayor, council members. I want to take the opportunity tonight to better explain the technology being proposed in our fee schedule. You saw in the proposed fee schedule and the changes. Great. First slide just describes the methodology. So we look back over the last 4 years of permit fees and number of permits. After taking our costs for technology implementation of Energov, our online permitting platform, our electronic plan review platform, which is Bluebeam, and a little bit of hardware costs, the total cost for those is $32,184. It does not capture all of the costs associated with these platforms. So we have wireless network charges, we certainly have more hardware charges, we have IT staff that's going to be dedicated to these services. So we didn't include everything at this point, but we thought we'd represent at least some of these hard costs that we know we're going to see. But again, took the 4 years averages valuations of permits. So maybe that's where I confused everybody last time. So the valuation of the permit fee is based on the valuation of the permit. So we in the fee schedule, if your permit is valued at a certain amount, there's associated permit associated permit fee that is charged to that project. So the total valuation you see up there is the average over those 4 years. 796, 332, 23 is the average of all the permits that we permit through our electronic platform over 4 years. The 616.75 is the average number of permits we see on an annual over those 4 years. So if we calculate that to come up with the revenue associated with the technology fee, the 32,184, it'd be a 4% permit fee, and the county just showed that 32,184, or $52.18 per permit fee that would come in again, just $2, about $2.98 underneath that technology fee. Now, you can apply those accordingly. 52.18 you apply to every permit. Our minimum permit fee is $25. So if you change out a window that's valued between $100 and $500, it's a $25 permit fee. So if you took the number of permits and the $52.18 flat fee, you'd have $52.18, that $25 permit, right? Or if you took a large commercial project and had a $25,000 permit, you need $52.18 attached that. We didn't feel that was equitable, so look at the proposed 4% permit fee. And the next slide will show you kind of how that looks with a single family residence and a commercial structure. So the single family residence valued at $223,500. That permit fee, the building permit fee is $2,843.10, and a 4% technology fee would be $113.72 added on that permit. And the associated commercial structure is $641,000 plus at a $7,000 permit fee. 200% technology fee at 4%. So I hope that helps out.
Made it clear.
In your decision making tonight with the proposed technology fee, and I'm happy to answer any questions we have.
Thank you, Mark. Donna, may we have a reading of resolution number 1238-0522? I'm
Do you
sorry.
want to know if there's
comment.
public comments first?
Sorry, public comment.
And there isn't, Mr. Mayor.
Now maybe we have a reading. That's right there in red.
Resolution number 1238-0522. A resolution of the city of Shelton, Washington, updating and establishing the city's master fee schedule for fiscal year 2022.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve resolution number 1238-0522 as presented.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? The only question I have was about the adoption fee. The $200 was if we were vaccinating the dogs or. And I thought that it was going to be $100 adoption fee if they were already vaccinated. Or I'm sorry, spayed or neutered. That was what.
Yeah, the 200, if they were already spayed or neutered, because that.
I
the
thought the fee
the
would be
fee was-
raised because we were.
Yeah.
For the spayed and neuter room.
That's true. So we can certainly add language with the adoption tonight that takes that feedback down if the dog has already been altered or cat, I suppose.
Any other comments or questions? All right.
What about, did we talk about, did it being cheaper if they were chipped already?
Yes, and that's it.
Okay, all right.
All right, any other comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1238-0522 as presented.
Not as presented as.
Oh, as amended.
So the motion. Let's see here.
This is action.
The amendment to the motion would be to add the $100 adoption fee if the animal had already been altered. So I think there needs to be an amended,
I move to amend,
thank you.
I move to amend the master fee schedule to allow for $100 discount,
Adoption. fee.
adoption fee, for any animal that has already been spayed or neutered as part of the adoption program.
Yes. Second, Miguel, okay.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt as amended 1238.
Yeah, we have to adopt the amendment first and then go back to the original. These are fine.
I thought I was doing that.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt the amended resolution number 1238-0522 to reduce the adoption fee if the animal is spayed or neutered. Correct. All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay. Oh, I thought we were waiting for a second.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Huh? We do the original motion now?
Yeah, and there's already a motion and second. So.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1238-0522 as presented.
That's right.
As amended, but
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we are down to Jeff. Will you please give us your city manager report?
Sure. Robert's Rules of Order expert at your service. Couple things I want to mention. The first is last Friday, the Chamber held their expo. I know the mayor already mentioned this earlier, but I want to reiterate that I was out there in the afternoon. It was a great time, great weather. A lot of people having a lot of what was it, fried cheese stick or fried cheesecake. I did not partake in that, but it sounded good. But everybody that I saw was having a really good time, spending time in the community along Railroad Avenue. It was a lot of fun. Second was movies in the park. Friday night, we did get started a little bit later. The sun stayed up. and made it difficult to see the movie, but after it went down, it was great. A lot of fun. A lot of people had a good time in the park, and we have gotten some great feedback on that, so that's good. I don't remember what the movie is this Friday, but we have changed our announcement to say at dusk or, right around 8:30.
Little Giants.
Little Giants. Also, let's see here. I wanted to thank the Mason County Department of Health for the extra COVID tests. We have those available for the public again. We ran out and they were quick to resupply us with those needs, so that's great. So if you need a test, stop by. And I did also want to mention our HR analyst, Leander Sharp, has been accepted into the Northwest Women's Leadership Academy. And she'll be starting that program in October. It's a great program. We've already had one team member go through it, our Administrative Services Director, Michelle Sutherland. Leandra, though, will get to do it in person. Michelle's was almost exclusively on Zoom, unfortunately. And lastly, on your looking ahead, next week on the 26th, we'll have a presentation about park funding strategies. I believe Councilmember Gutierrez mentioned that earlier today. But there'll be options presented to council and just giving them some information to think about. And at your next meeting, you'll hear all of the items you heard on the business agenda tonight. And you will also, actually, that's just about it. We don't have anything on business for 8-2. So that's what we have coming up, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the manager? No. Does the council have any new items for discussion tonight? No. Then our next council meeting will be Tuesday, August 2nd at 6 p.m. We also have a study session July 26th at 6 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned at 6:56 p.m.